As the state legislature prepares to take up budget items after spring recess, our state Capitol reporter Quinn Gorham sat down for an exclusive interview with Governor Walz. In the first of two parts, the governor talks all things budget and the possibility of Social Security tax relief.
I think the best place for us to start is back in November. And I want to ask, what was going through your head the morning after the election when you realized not only did you win, but that the DFL had secured a trifecta?
Yeah, and I found out about 3:30 in the morning. You know, you're kind of up late, and I got a text from Speaker Hortman, and at the time who said it looks like we're going to add the Senate to this. I think the biggest thing for Minnesota is that there was work that was unfinished. I think one of the frustrations is ideologically, you know, some of the big issues that come up, we have to deal with it, reproductive care and that. But I think the frustrations were we were sitting on a $12 billion surplus last May. We had a deal, and then politics, you know, folks walked away from the deal. I think the biggest thing I thought of was, and the first thing I said to leaders was, I said, we have a responsibility to finish things on time.
Let's talk about the joint budget targets real quick, because that's a pretty big deal. To my knowledge, it's pretty early on in the session to actually have budget targets, let alone joint budget targets. How big of a deal is that for you guys?
It's a big deal. I think for, you know, your viewers who are out there listening is we negotiate, Democrats and Republicans last year. This year it's you know, Democrats negotiating but taking input. One of the things is we have a set target. I've got the balanced budget. That's what we've done over the last few years. We can't run a deficit. With that being said, then we come up with where it is. Everybody has a different idea of where they should spend that money. We've agreed upon targets inside of that, and now the legislative process will work. Democracy will work. Groups are coming up here and saying we need more money for nursing homes. We need more money for child care. We need more money for tax cuts for folks. Now, inside those budget targets, they will work those out and finish the first week of May with those. We will try and conference them together, and then my goal is we'll finish on time.
I want to talk about the GOP. Yeah. Because one of their criticisms about this big budget surplus is that it should be going back to Minnesotans, and they want to see more tax cuts. Yeah. What do you say to that?
Well, it is going back to Minnesotans. The one thing I will just very clearly say to the GOP, we negotiated a deal together, and they chose to walk away for political reasons. They're very clear. They weren't, you know, they weren't cagey about it. They said, we're going to win all three, and we're going to do it our way, so we're rejecting this deal. I've come back to them again with basically the same thing. There are billions of dollars of tax cuts in this. Their frustrations is, I'm not going to give tax cuts to the wealthiest Minnesotans because they don't need them. They're doing quite well, and they find ways that they don't have to pay at the same rate. So there's just a difference of where the money goes. What I can tell them is, you're going to see, and I just tell Minnesotans this, it's going to be data-wise provable, the largest tax cut in Minnesota history. I think what we're saying, and the Democrats in the House and Senate are saying is, we're going to target our tax cuts to the middle class and reducing costs for them, and then we're going to reevaluate next year.
So, on the note of tax cuts, I want to talk about your initial budget proposal of, I think it was $8 billion, if I'm not mistaken. In the joint budget targets, that number was $3 billion. Where did those discussions go? How did you guys settle on that much lower number of $3 billion?
Well, and it's no secret on this, and I'm glad that they came around. There's some kind of strange bedfellows now here. Republicans who are convinced my idea to send checks back to people, which I feel strongly about still, they said it was a gimmick. Now they think it's the number, we should do that. Democrats in the House aren't as enthusiastic about that. And I said, well, let's talk and figure where we're at. I feel very strongly that we need to put money back in people's pockets. I feel very strongly that there are people who can see a tax cut in Social Security that need it without the top richest folks having to see that.
Do you think that's enough money for?
We'll see. Yes, I think it might be enough that we're able to get done, but I feel very adamant that, again, a big chunk of this, about a third of it is going back in the forms of tax cuts directly back to people. The rest is going to infrastructure, education, and those types of things.
Could we see some Social Security tax relief? Because I know that's been a big point of contention.
We will.
Okay.
And like I've compromised with them and said that when I first came to office in 2019, we cut the Social Security tax. I didn't get a lot of enthusiastic help from either side at that time, but we were able to get that done. I think Democrats have always made the case that we want to make sure that working class and those folks that depend on this.
So to be clear, you don't think we'll see a total repeal of the Social Security
No, I don't think you'll see a total repeal. I don't think one makes sense and it's very expensive, but I think you'll see the vast majority of Minnesotans be exempted.
Tomorrow at 6, we'll hear what the governor told Quinn about his remaining legislative priorities for the session.